Will a gamma squeeze propel Bitcoin to $150,000 per coin very quickly? The answer is probably not, but it's worth knowing what it is and preparing accordingly. Now, the short take here is, what should you do? Buy as much Bitcoin as you can and hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. That's the same advice I've been giving from the beginning of time. That's what you do. But what is a gamma squeeze? Gamma squeeze sounds like some fancy technical jargon that somebody would throw around to try to make other people feel dumb. Obviously, you know I would never do that, so I'm going to try to explain it in the simplest terms possible. Okay, so if you invest in any asset, stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, gold, silver, soybeans, it doesn't matter. If you're investing for the long term, it's called being long the asset, O-L-O-N-G. So if somebody says, I am long Bitcoin, that means that I am investing, hoping it will go up for the long term. Now, you can also be short an asset, and I'm not going to explain technically how that works, but you can be short an asset by borrowing the asset and hoping the price goes down, and then you return the asset at a lower price later. You don't need to understand how that works other than to say if somebody is short an asset or is shorting an asset, that means that they are betting the price is going to go down. Now, I do not recommend anyone ever short any asset ever. If you believe in something, invest in it. That's called going long or being long the asset, which is great because you can never, when you're long, you can never lose more money than you have invested. And, worst case scenario, the price dips and, you're down, but who cares? You can wait it out. If you are short an asset, often you cannot wait it out because what happens if you're a short an asset is if the price starts going up, let me cover this first. If you are long an asset and the price drops by 50%, you're down 50%. So what? You just wait. There's no way to end up completely up a creek, screaming at the top of your lungs for dear life because you're losing so much money. That does not happen if you're long an asset. But if you are short an asset, your upside is sort of leverage. You can make a lot of money if the asset goes down, but your downside is unlimited, meaning you could end up on the hook for a huge amount of money because if the asset goes up by a factor of 10, you owe a ton of, you basically owe all of that stock or that Bitcoin back at a price that you can no longer afford. So as a result, there's something called a short squeeze. A short squeeze, well, first of all, there's no such thing as a long squeeze. You'll never hear people talk about a long squeeze, at least not for people who are not using leverage. So if you just own an asset and the price goes up or the price goes down, so what? You can just wait it out. But if you are short an asset, what that means is you have borrowed the asset hoping the price will go down and you can return the asset at a cheaper price. So, if I'm short Bitcoin, which I would never be because it'd be the dumbest thing in the world, but if I am short Bitcoin, I could short Bitcoin at $125,000 per coin, which means I borrow Bitcoin at $125,000 per coin. I hope that the price drops to 110. Then I buy the Bitcoin back at 110, return the borrowed Bitcoin, and I make the money between the 110 and the 125. So the problem in a short squeeze is if the price goes up, your downside becomes unlimited because as the price rises, it squeezes your collateral. And as your collateral gets squeezed, you are forced to buy the Bitcoin to cover your position. Otherwise, you get liquidated and lose all of your money. So the same thing happens. I'm not sure if it's in futures or options because I don't understand that world well enough. But a gamma squeeze is when too many people have bet that the price will not end above a certain level. So right now, for the end of October, there's a huge amount of, puts and calls. I don't know. I don't get into futures and options and all that. But the magic number is 123,000. 123. It's easy to remember. 123. So there is a huge number of people hoping that the price ends above 123,000 at the end of October, and a different set of a huge number of people hoping that the price ends below 123,000. Because if the price ends below 123,000, then all of the people who bet on the price not exceeding it, they get to collect their premiums on their options or futures or whatever it is, and it doesn't cost them anything. But if the price starts to go above 123,000, you get what's called a gamma squeeze. A gamma squeeze means a bunch of people committed that in exchange for making some money now, that they would cover the upside above 123,000. Now they did that because they did not think Bitcoin would end October above 123,000. So they said, sure, I'll give you 10% on your money, and I'll give you the upside above 123,000. If it ends below 123,000, I get to keep that 10%. But if it ends above, I'm on the hook for an unlimited amount of money. So the problem is, if the price goes above 123,000 and stays there and starts climbing, now you have a huge number of people that essentially the tide went out and they found out that we all found out that everybody's swimming naked, right? That's the famous saying about investing is when the tide goes out, you find out who's been swimming naked. Well, a lot of these people that have essentially, again, my brain does not want to go figure out right now if they sold puts or calls or, options expiry and all this sort of stuff. But anyway, all the people that bet that the price of Bitcoin would not be above 123,000 are on the hook for an unlimited amount of losses if the price is above 123,000. And therefore they have a significant incentive if they can by selling Bitcoin that they own to try to keep it below 123,000. But if the price starts to go higher, you get a gamma squeeze. And a gamma squeeze is a bunch of people that need to own a bunch of Bitcoin because they are stuck covering the entire upside above 123,000. So let's say the price goes from 125 to 130. All of these people are now seriously losing money. Then the price goes to 135 and they are now seriously losing money. And what happens in a gamma squeeze is all of those people end up having to go buy Bitcoin to cover themselves. Essentially, it's like the tide went out and everybody is scrambling to buy clothes because they were hoping nobody was going to find out they were swimming naked. But now that the tide is going out, clothing is selling at a premium. And everybody who was swimming naked now really wants to buy some clothes. So a gamma squeeze is essentially, in this case, at the end of October, because so many people have bet that the price will or won't go above 123,000, if the price goes up, it starts squeezing all of those people that were swimming naked because they are on the hook for unlimited losses above 123,000, which means at some point you can get a bunch of panic buying by all the people who are swimming naked trying to own enough Bitcoin up there to cover their losses. Because as soon as they buy the Bitcoin, they're not subject to the losses anymore. For example, at 123,000, let's say that they can only stomach the losses up to 130,000 because they were betting the price was going to be down, but instead it's up. Again, you don't need to worry about this because nobody who's watching this video is doing options or futures or puts and calls and all that. But it's worth knowing about because it might result in the price going up very quickly. Okay, so the price goes from 123 up to 130. Let's say at 130, a bunch of them decide, I can't take the pain anymore. I've got to buy Bitcoin at 130 because I can't stomach the losses above 130. So a bunch of them buy Bitcoin, which pushes the price even higher to 135. Well, at 135, there's a bunch more people who are like, whoa. I can't stomach the losses above 135. So they have to cover their position by buying a bunch of Bitcoin, which pushes the price to 140, resulting in a bunch of people that were positive it was never going to get to 140, now panicking because now they're going to be deep underwater above 140,000 because they need to cover themselves and buy clothes because the tide is going out much farther than they expected. And that pushes the price with all of those people buying to 145, and it just keeps happening. So if we get a very rapid price rise up to 150, first of all, it might not stay there. I mean, we might go to 150 and then drop back down into the 130s or something like that. Nobody knows. But the reason I tell you all of this is because, in my opinion, you should buy as much Bitcoin as you can and hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible right now. Now, why should you do that right now? Because as soon as you end up with a gamma squeeze, if once happens, the price starts to rise very quickly. As soon as the price starts to rise very quickly, it becomes pretty dicey when you're out there buying Bitcoin. Because again, you're all going to be tagged. So the price rockets up and you're going to be asking, hey, should I buy Bitcoin right now or not? And I'm going to say, well, dang it, we're in the middle of a gamma squeeze. Things are pretty crazy. It would have been nice if you bought the Bitcoin before this, because right now you're basically trying to buy Bitcoin in the middle of a storm. So that doesn't mean it's a bad time to buy Bitcoin. It just means it's the price is going to be going kind of crazy for a period of time. So the reason I tell you all of this is because if a gamma squeeze happens and a bunch of you are like, hey, Joel, why didn't you tell me Bitcoin was about to rocket up toward 150? I'm going to say, I did. I recorded an entire video explaining what a gamma squeeze was. And I only bring this up because James Check, my favorite Bitcoin analyst who does the Check on-chain newsletter, says there is a possibility this is going to happen, which is the only reason I'm aware of it. And he tends to be right, even though he did not provide a probability this would happen. He tends to be right. So he brought it up and said, hey, we may need to be sort of aware that a gamma squeeze could be happening. And if he's going to bring it up, I feel like part of my job is to translate his more technical view of the world with a more down-to-earth view. And again, if we do get a rapid rise to 150 and people are complaining that I should have told them it was coming, I'm going to send them this video and say, I did tell you it was coming and you should have bought the Bitcoin. And now you got to buy it at a lot higher price, which is unfortunate. But anyway, I didn't want to not record a video about it. And then the price rockets to 150 and everybody's like, wait, I should have known. I would much rather record a video and say, look, I don't know what the probability that we get a super rapid rise to $150,000 is. I don't know. Is it 20%? Is it 50%? I don't know. Nobody knows. But if it does happen, I want to give you as much knowledge and information as I possibly can so you can make an informed decision. And my advice stays the same. Buy as much Bitcoin as you can. Hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. It really is that simple. It really is that simple.